How's it going, Jets fans? My name is Alex with my co-host here, Ryan Moran, and we got some good news and some bad news for this Jets team as we kind of hoped that Zach Wilson would be available for week one, but it doesn't seem like that will be the case. Now we're looking at Joe Flacco taking that starting job, running with it for at least a couple weeks. Wilson is making some good progress. We do have some quotes from Robert Saleh that we will read to you guys, some updates on that front and when we should expect to see Zach Wilson back in playing shape and hopefully be starting in a couple weeks here. But unfortunately, we will have to wait it out, and Joe Flacco will take over in the meantime, hoping to get some production out of this offense that is now kind of rebuilt with the new offensive line. Laken Tomlinson at left guard. You got Dwayne Brown at left tackle, Garrett Wilson, Tyler Conklin, some really nice pieces, Breece Hall, of course. And we're hoping that they can put together a much more efficient year than last. But Ryan, before we dive into the latest updates on Joe Flacco, Zach Wilson, how you do today, my friend?
I'm doing well, Alex. Some obviously pretty big news here today is, it was really the expected date that we were going to get, an idea based on what Robert Saleh said Monday morning. And, I felt like it could really go either way. Based on what Saleh said Monday, I felt like there was somewhat of a chance that Zach could potentially go for week one here. But I think all along, while the initial update that was given in August when Zach got hurt was very optimistic, and it was that reported 2 to 4 weeks. I mean, you knew all along the Jets were going to, really play the safe and make sure, like Saleh said once again today, as he reiterated, 100% both physically and mentally. And I think, it probably would have been forced and rushed if they really, put Zach out there in this game. As much as we all are excited and want to see Zach, against such a great team. I mean, he really hasn't practiced, and that's a part of what Saleh also touched up on today, and how they're not going to put him on IR. So, Zach is able to continue working with his teammates in practice. And, the rest of this week is really going to be, just working with the training staff. Obviously, Zach has done, as they said Monday, he's done both some running and some throwing, but, he really hasn't had a ton of work with his teammates yet. And I think that's the main thing. And you really want to, make sure that you do right by him. And in this situation, I think Flacco has had more than enough time now, between training camp and that final preseason game. And look, he's a 15-year veteran with a ton of experience. He's going up against his former team. And I think, what you can really expect and look for, from Flacco in this game is just that command, playing within the structure of the offense. And as we saw in that final preseason game, just spreading the football around.
Yeah, look, he's a veteran. Garrett Wilson said it best a couple of weeks ago. He throws a really nice ball, and he can get the most out of some of these playmakers. We've seen him do it in the past, going against the Ravens in week one, like you said, his former team. So, this is definitely a situation where I think the Jets can still be operative. I think they can still be productive and efficient with Flacco under helm. But this is a season where you wanted to see Zach Wilson take that step forward. This was about his development. This wasn't about Joe Flacco getting reps, unfortunately. And we're kind of sitting in this situation wondering exactly how far he can take them before Wilson does make a return. Specifically, Robert Saleh said, he might actually be out until week 4, he mentioned. That's not ideal.
Yes, they said the Pittsburgh game, so.
Okay. So the exact quote was, to be honest with you guys, I'm going to lay this out. I really don't want to talk about the situation anymore. The earliest he's going to be available is Pittsburgh. That's going to be the earliest. And just from everything we gathered over the last couple of days, now, can it change? Sure. I'm always going to leave that door open. You guys know me. I'm the eternal optimist. We're going to make sure that both mind and body are 110% and make sure we do right by him. And we feel like talking to the doctors and everyone, it's going to be the Pittsburgh week. So, that's obviously not exactly what we wanted to hear, but I'd rather Zach Wilson be 100% healthy than him be 75% healthy, potentially re-aggravate that injury and end up kind of hurting this team and hurting himself further, especially because, quarterbacks in this league end up having to run. They end up having to do things with their legs, whether it's getting out of the pocket, whether it's running for first down. And Zach Wilson not having that faith in his knee is not ideal. You can still get a nice sample size of production, or at least development over 14 games or 13 games. So after week 4, you're still going to get a nice sample size of games that he can actually develop, grow, and kind of get the most out of him. But obviously not starting the year, it does hurt. And I think that 4-week sample size right there is usually what it takes for players to kind of get up to speed and generally like kind of get, like say like mid-season form. And I think that, the Jets are going to have to bear with him as he kind of gets used to the NFL system once again, the second year of this scheme, but he did miss time last year as well. So definitely not an ideal start to Zach Wilson's career. I'll ask you this. Do you think, or would you categorize him as injury prone at this point? 2 years, injuries, missing a bunch of games. I don't think I'd categorize him as that, but these kind of issues, they tend to compound, especially when it's ligament stuff, just a slight patellar strain, but like ultimately those leg issues are not ideal. And I don't think he's injury prone yet, but I think he's heading in that direction if he keeps getting hurt like this.
For sure. I think that what you said there is very fair. He's still too young and inexperienced to just label him as injury prone. But I think you definitely got to be wary just of like what we've seen to this point. And, availability is the most important thing. And like you said, luckily we're still going to get at least a dozen games. I think that's enough of a benchmark to really, get an idea on Zach in his second year and, what he really projects to be moving forward. But I think in this particular instance, I will say, not being able to practice with the first team, and they've worked so much with Flacco over the last 3 weeks, that the timing and just the rhythm, I think from that standpoint, it kind of impacts the entire offense if you're going to really rush him out there, without any practice. And I liked what Salah said, really just making sure that, you're doing right by him and he's 100%, not just physically and how he feels, but mentally. And that really just carries out the entire offense. You're talking about the quarterback and the guy who always has the football in his hands. I mean, you want to make sure that the, timing and connection between these guys is where it has to be. And I think that's really where, this decision, in my opinion, can be, beneficial to Zach. It's just getting practice reps. After this week, obviously he's going to continue to work with the training staff, the rest of this week. And it's good to really give, the starting offense an idea that it's going to be Flacco for these first 2 games. And then just on the practice field, in those settings to really get Zach, more work with the starters, before that Pittsburgh game, I definitely think is, really a fair approach, to Zach and his development.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's take a look kind of at what the Jets need to do to win this game against the Ravens. Now, beating Lamar Jackson is easier said than done. We've seen teams do it before. The Miami Dolphins pulled it off last year, but ultimately he's a guy that it's difficult. I think Lamar was playing against the Dolphins in one of those games. So, this is a situation where the Jets and defense needs to step up big. One of the most mobile, one of the most agile quarterbacks in the football NFL. And ultimately, if the Jets defense doesn't stand up and showcase their, expected efficiency, the pass rush doesn't get there, they're going to have a long day. The offense is not going to be able to match Lamar Jackson's production, unfortunately. So what I would recommend, if I had any say, would be that the Jets run the ball aggressively and they keep the ball in their possession. I think that time of possession is going to be a critical factor for the Jets this week. They got to run the ball effectively. Breece Hall, Michael Carter, they got to get those first downs. They got to play, possession football and keep the ball out of Lamar Jackson's hands. They got to force some turnovers. And they got to keep this a low scoring game. This is the only way that Joe Flacco is going to manage to, in my opinion, propel this team to a win. Is they got to keep this game under 20 points on the Ravens side at the very least. This could be if the Jets win this game, it's going to be like a 21-17 game. It's not going to be a very high scoring. It could be even lower. They could be like a 17-14 game. But I think, stopping Lamar Jackson is the key. But offensively, what do you think the catalyst is going to be here? I personally think it's the running game. And just keeping that possession, keeping that clock going. What are your thoughts on that?
For sure. I think offensively, it really starts with just ball control as much as anything. And I think, playing with this physical offensive line, I know the Ravens won't have Travis Jones in this game. And I think, they do have some moving parts. And if there is any type of concern for them defensively, I think it is just in the front 7 up the middle. I think is really the, weakness that the Jets could potentially expose. I mean, how talented their back end is and just some of the athletes that they have on the edge defensively. So I think, playing to the interior, which the Jets have with guys like Lake and ABT, Connor McGovern, and really getting this 1-2 punch of Breece Hall and Michael Carter going on the ground. And really from there, what that can open up for Joe Flacco off of play action in the passing game, getting him in rhythm, the timing with, these wideouts and just spreading the ball around. I think it really just stems from, like you said, getting this exciting 1-2 punch of Hall and Carter going and, controlling the football is really going to be, everything. And from there, I mean, we obviously saw what the turnovers did in the game against the Giants from the first team with Michael Carter's fumble and with Joe Flacco's interception out of the pocket. As always, I mean, time of possession is key, but you got to take good care of the football. And, that's what's going to give you ultimately a chance in this game.
Yeah, I mean, look, we know what Joe Flacco provides, right? He's a veteran guy. He's a pretty solid arm. He can throw it downfield. He's efficient for the most part. He does make some dumb decisions occasionally. I mean, look, the Giants linebacker core is basically a graveyard. Austin Calitro, he's been like a backup for 3 years now. He's picking off Joe Flacco on the Jets' first team offense, and that was just a bad decision by Joe. Just didn't see the linebacker kind of getting underneath there. I don't necessarily blame him. It's a preseason, take a shot, whatever. It doesn't matter. Doesn't count anyway during the preseason. But, Joe has his moments where he makes bad decisions. But ultimately, he's good enough. He can start in the NFL on a bad team, and kind of, which is what he's doing right now as the Jets wait for Zach Wilson to return. I would categorize the Jets as a bad team until proven otherwise. I think that they have the roster to be a good team, but I want to see it first. I want to see wins on the field before we categorize them as such. But, this game will ultimately go as far as the running game takes them, and I think this game will go as far as Joe Flacco's mistakes take them. If he throws interceptions, if he fumbles the ball, this is going to be a difficult one for the Jets. But if he's efficient, if he makes his throws, he doesn't turn the ball over, the Jets will have a chance to win this game. But ultimately, it dials down to the defensive line, pressure, DJ Reed, Sauce Gardner, big time opportunity for them. I mean, look, the Ravens don't have an insane wide receiver core. They don't have Brown anymore. They don't have Hollywood. They have Rashad Bateman. A couple of like mid guys. I think they have Sammy Watkins now, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe the Patriots.
Nah, they're deep at tight end, I think, is the main thing.
Right, Mark Andrews. Who the hell has Sammy Watkins now? Where the hell is this guy?
Packers.
He's the Packers. Jesus, this guy's been to every team and then some. So look at the wide receiver core. I don't think that they're going to be able to beat the Jets up in the secondary very much. I think that, Sauce, DJ Reed will be able to lock it down pretty well. But, Mark Andrews, who's on Mark, I guess CJ Mosley gets a little bit of action and coverage on him. Maybe you're playing a little bit of zone. And you're just trying to take away those seams because he really dominates those seams. Jordan Whitehead's going to have to step up and have a big game. But it ultimately comes down to containing Lamar Jackson. They got to play a lot of contain. They have to have linebackers spying on those A and B gaps to make sure that Lamar doesn't get through there. But, Carl Lawson, Jermaine Johnson, they're fast, they're big. They can make things happen. I think they can contain them pretty well. But even playing contain against Lamar Jackson is virtually impossible. He makes guys miss without avail, without any problem at all. So it will be interesting to see how the Jets kind of manage that. I'm very curious to see their game plan there, but I do think that they can win this game if they play disciplined football and they stop Lamar from running the ball effectively on them. I don't think the receiver core is that good. I think the Jets secondary can hold up. But I'm curious to see how Joe Flacco in this offense attacks the Ravens defense, which is obviously pretty solid as it is every single year. But guys, I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions below. Zach Wilson's injury update, missing a couple games, Joe Flacco starting. How do you think the Jets can win this one? Definitely is going to take a team effort, but I think it is possible. As always, enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy your Wednesday. We got football coming up tomorrow. Very, very exciting. As always, like and subscribe, and we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Jets episode.